Today in this video, I'm going to be explaining how catchers should be using the weight room. That way, by the end of this video, you can know exactly how to use the weight room to your advantage in order to become a better catcher and not actually use it in a way where it's going to hold you back from being the best version of yourself behind the dish. So to get right into it, one of the biggest things I want to explain is there's not going to be specific workouts and one specific workout plan that I'm going to give you in this video, because that is actually going to be counterproductive. It's not just certain exercises that I'm going to be going over that make you better. It's actually this mindset and this thought process that will help you in what is actually important in order to do things that will make you stronger, but will also give you that better pop time, blocking, receiving, overall presence back there, and situational awareness. Those are the things that matter as a catcher. So to get right into it, we need to define what is our end goal. If you are a catcher who wants to go to the next level, okay, or you want to make varsity, you want to play at the college level, you need to focus on being a good catcher. All right. Like I just said, you need to have your blocking at a certain standard. You need to be really good with your blocking form, different pitches, different scenarios. Your throwdowns need to be at a certain time. Okay. You can't have too slow of a pop time, and you need to have certain timing and direction with your receiving. All those things I just mentioned really have nothing to do with the weight room directly, and a certain exercise in the weight room helping you directly improve that. Okay. So if I were to hit biceps for an entire day, will that help my pop time? Yes or no? The answer is no, because all that really did was make my biceps stronger. Unless I had a bicep deficiency when throwing, then it might actually complement me and help my velocity, but that's not going to help my footwork. It's not going to help my experience. It's not going to help my phases when I go to throw down, but it could make me stronger. So we need to separate strength to functionality to on-field mechanics and what you're able to actually do, okay? I made this mistake in my career early where I fell in love with the weight room. I absolutely loved it. I wanted the biggest legs, biggest upper body. I wanted to look jacked back there as a catcher, just being honest. But I spent so much time in the weight room, and I wish I spent more time correlating the weight room to make me a better catcher, because there was times where I was too sore going back there to catch a game, maybe in the middle of summer or late in the season, but I had to get my pump in, right? I had to get that crazy bodybuilder style pump, or get that deadlift weight up, or that squat weight. That's besides the point. That's when I think that becomes counterproductive. So what I want to show you today is how you can pretty much use any workout you're already doing, you're already prescribed, and now correlate it to helping you be better on the field with this framework. One thing I'm going to be going over is how most of you guys have a strength program you already have. So if you play high school baseball or you're going to college baseball, you're going to have some sort of strength coach or some sort of program. Whether it's good or not is really besides the point, but you're going to be doing something in the weight room already, okay? And the first thing that we need to understand is that goal, no matter what the exercises are, is to build strength, to build a foundation of strength. So strength will correlate to things like speed, longevity, functionality, in a way of you need to actually be strong, especially as a catcher, because we're always on our legs. We're always having to get up at an elite speed and throw someone out. So we have to be quick, okay? So the weight room can help you do that. But what I'm saying is, don't think the weight room's actually going to make your mechanics of a fine motor sport position, like catching, something where we have to transfer the ball here, like we have to receive there. There's nothing in the weight room that's really going to make that better directly. It's more going to complement once you start working on that, so you have strength to sit in your crouch all day. But what I want to go over is what the program you're currently doing, build strength, 100%, okay? And honestly, most of the programs out there are going to be beneficial for you because they're going to be shocking the central nervous system. They're going to be building that muscle up in different dynamic ways, unless you're doing just a straight workout split where maybe it's only biceps for a day, only back for a day. I do find that to be counterproductive if you are trying to take your catching to the next level. Now, disclaimer, that does not mean don't hit biceps ever. Don't work on that, because you still, again, need strength in certain muscle groups to have that longevity over an entire season. Because if you are a catcher who wants to play for a long time, you want to play every game that year. Okay, so you need a really good base of stamina and strength behind you. So you need to spend a lot of the time in the offseason building that, but also maintaining that and continuing to make gains in season. Okay. And I'll be going over that later in this video so you know what off season versus in season looks like. But back to the point I'm making is follow your strength program. And then what you need to do next is know how to correlate that to catching. Okay. So this is where I get into like functional strength. So most strength programs are going to be lifts where they're probably going to make you deadlift. They're probably going to make you squat. They're probably going to make you overhead press of some sort. And those are all things, again, for a really, really good foundation, like I just said. But most of those aren't going to make you directly faster or more elastic or more functional unless it is programmed really, really good by someone who knows exactly what they're doing, meaning they're doing the right sets, reps, and more importantly, tempo to help you build speed through a squat, things like that. But most of you guys aren't getting that, okay? And I wouldn't necessarily invest in that unless you have the means to do so. That could be something if you're like, I'm taking this to the next level. Okay, go ahead, do that. But what you can do now is what I call like the middle ground, where you can do a lot of functional mobility stuff, okay? Where it's going to lengthen and strengthen in certain movements that actually correlate to catching way more. So the easy one is like a squat. When you're squatting for weight, everyone's like, well, as a catcher, you're in a squat. So that one does correlate pretty good. But no one knows how a deadlift actually correlates to you throwing down to second base. Because when you throw down to second base, now we have to turn our whole body, get this down at an elite speed, and then get rid of it, get our whole body turned. That doesn't really correlate to a deadlift that much, but there are certain components that do. So that's why you need to be doing this stuff in the middle that actually is going to now correlate to you having strength, lengthening, mobility, and elasticity in that movement. Closer to now, how does that look like game-like of us actually throwing down, actually blocking side to side? There's a 3-part equation from the weight room to the game field. There's what you do in the actual weight room, like the lifts you're doing. Now, number 2, what we're going over is what you're doing in between lifts and in between the field. And the number 3 is what you're actually doing in practice or on the field to get better. So the weight room would be like your actual strength lifts. The third one would be you actually going to a field to work on your throwdowns to get better at throwing down. It's the stuff you do in the middle that I think matters the most, and why you don't necessarily need the world's best strength program. You need something that's going to have that functionality specific to the sport you're playing and the position you are playing, which is catcher. Catcher is unlike any other position out there, okay? There's so many things you have to do laterally, side to side, and then we have to go from a lateral plane to a linear plane in a split second and get rid of the ball with a very specific arm motion, doing things of that nature. We are constantly moving. We're in different positions, different stances throughout the whole game. So that is what I'm trying to say, is this middle ground stuff is going to be the most important. And what that's going to look like, again, is mobility that actually challenges you, that will build strength. So not just like static stretching. Static stretching would be like if I held this stretch right here for 30 seconds. You could do that on your own time. That's going to help, with your overall lengthening of those muscles. But what we want to do is be able to build speed and strength in that certain movement. Again, I keep going back to pop time because that's what you guys always talk about. You always want the pop time, improved. But for most of you guys, what we truly know is you need to improve your blocking. And that comes from, you can't move side to side very quickly in any stance. So far, we've gone over how you guys are already probably doing a strength program that is going to be the foundations. Like I said, a press, a push, a pull, something linearly, so like a deadlift. But what you really, really need is the things in between that is going to correlate to what you're going to be doing on the field more, okay? And these are going to be really specific movements, and these are the things that I actually help the guys with in my program improve. So a lot of them come to me and they're like, hey, I already have a strength coach who wants it his way. So why would I write this kid a full strength program? Because now it's going to be counterproductive. Because when I go over all these programs, they might not be the world's best program, but again, it still has a good foundation of a deadlift, a good foundation of a squat, whether that's back squat, front squat. So I don't need to prescribe them the thing that they're already getting at a team practice, at a team lift. Now they should be taking advantage of the stuff in between to now correlate that onto the field, because we're not just trying to get jacked. If being a good catcher is your goal, obviously we want it all. So like if you want to be ripped, jacked back there, biceps, huge legs, and have the quickest pop time, that's a great goal. That's going to take a lot of time. And that is, I truly believe at some point one's going to have to give for the other. At some point, you need to really define your goals of what you want and listen from the guy who wanted to try and do everything and spent so much time doing that. But if you want to have the best pop time, dude, you need to literally work on pop time as much as you can, and everything in the weight room. Your mindset should be like, how is this making me a better catcher? Okay, sweet. It's giving me strength. All right. I spent an hour on just building strength at the weight room, but I did nothing functionally in order to get faster, to get more mobile, to work on those actual movements that will correlate to the on-field stuff. And that's where most of you guys are messing up in all of your training. Okay. So number two, second thing I wanted to go over was going to be how you guys are lifting out of season versus in season. Okay. Out of season lifts are going to be where you are all out, you have more recovery, you are trying to build that solid foundation of strength, but you're trying to push yourself to a whole new boundary and you are trying to make gains. All right. You are trying to make extreme gains. This is where you literally go ham, trying to improve the overall best version of yourself in the weight room. Speed wise, but you are trying to spend as much time on that skill work as well. Okay. Not just doing stuff in the weight room saying I had a great off season. I didn't do any receiving work. I didn't do any plyos. I didn't do any blocking. That is a huge mistake. What you actually want to do now in season, what most people think is just try and maintain. Okay. Let me just try and lift enough to maintain. False. With the right programming and with the right timing recovery, you are still making gains in season. It's just going to look different. All right. It's going to feel different. You're going to have less energy. You're going to have to work around that. So you are always trying to strive for that next level. You are always making gains because that's what your competition is doing. Your competition is always striving for that next level, going higher and higher and higher. And if you're not doing that in your every spring season or every in season you're in, dude, you're always going to be just plateauing, maintaining. All right. And when you look at how much baseball you guys are playing, a lot of you guys aren't doing multiple sports, or maybe you are, but you're playing spring ball, you're playing summer ball, and then fall ball. So you're technically always in season at some point. So you're going to have to find a way to make gains in the middle of that. All right. So get rid of the mindset of we're just trying to maintain in season and we're only going to make our gains out of season, because that's going to be a really small window. So now, what I really want to go over is you're probably watching this being like, okay, so I don't really know what to do to correlate that. That's where it's going to be specific to what you need to work on. And again, I don't know you personally. I don't know what you're stuck on. I don't know what in your catching you're missing. But I say make a list of blocking, throwing, receiving, and give yourself an honest evaluation in all of those. And literally go over, okay, what are the biggest things holding me back? All right, now work backwards. What do I need to work on? Okay, I need to get my feet quicker for pop time. All right, so now in the weight room, our biggest priority isn't trying to get a chiseled chest right now or the biggest biceps. It is what can we do to build strength to now build functionality and speed and that mobility that will now help me feel better, be quicker, be lighter on my feet when I go to work on my pop time stuff. That's the equation. And then do that for blocking, all right? What in the weight room is going to give me hip strength? What is going to give me that basis of strength? Always squats, right? Good deadlift, Cossack squat. Think there's like so many different squats out there you could do for that a lot of you guys might be doing in your strength program already. And then now, how can I correlate that to that specific movement where I'm building strength and functionality? There's a million exercises for these as well. You can literally just try and look them up on your own and just be like, okay, what is going to help me with, hip mobility for longevity, things like that. There's so much information out there. It's ridiculous. But be careful, because you don't want to just try and coach yourself and do this all on your own. But again, back to the point is like, how's that going to help my blocking and receiving when I go to work on that? So we want to use the weight room to complement our training on the field, but there's that middle step we need to incorporate as well that most of you guys aren't doing. So what I've gone over so far is, again, the strength program you're doing, unless it's a horrible, just straight bodybuilder type of workout, that's going to be very counterproductive. But most of you guys at your high school, at your college, have that basis of strength, okay? So don't overdo it with that. But focus on, okay, now how am I going to find a way to make that squat help me, be faster, okay? How is that going to help me sprint faster? Sprints are great. How is that going to help me be more elastic when my left knee is out, okay? And then now when you go to work on that on the field, that is going to help you so much to where you use the weight room in your advantage on that first part of the equation. And then when you're out on the field working on that stuff, now you're going to get a way better result. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel like, oh, this is finally correlating. So everything we're doing is getting the weight room to correlate to the field. All you guys are doing right now is separating them in half. Okay. I bet in your off-season training, you're like, I got a great pump in. I literally went and worked out all day, ate my protein, did all that, drank all my water. But it's like, cool. You need to think, how did that make me a better catcher today? Okay. Did that just get me stronger? That's great. But again, unless we don't bridge that gap to how that's going to help us on the field, it doesn't matter. Think of hitting for an example. We need rotational power. All right. That's like where it all comes from. And in the weight room, you need to build strength. Okay. Because strength will equal power with speed. So you need to build strength. You need to build speed. You need rotational power. And then you could go to the cage and now work on that fine movement of hitting, because hitting is unlike anything out there as well. It is a very, very, twisty move. It is something where it involves the right positioning. Always, you have to do it all the time. But if you tell me just squatting 500 pounds will make you a better hitter, you are dead wrong. So start thinking this way with your catching, okay? And again, what I want to give you guys here is not just like specific exercises to do, but change your mindset. And that will be the start of you going down your own journey to go to the weight room with way more intent. Maybe take notes of what you actually need to work on the field and how am I going to work backwards, okay? So build strength, build speed, correlate that to catcher-specific movements through mobility, through functionality, through lengthening and strengthening those certain body parts. And also, you can now go do that specific skill work when you're on the field. So like you can now work on your transfer on the field. But that came from you in the weight room doing maybe rows and then also doing rows for speed. Or now you're correlating with mobility for your scap retraction. So now when you do your transfer, you can get into a way better, more elastic motion. That's a good example of what that is, okay? Again, I don't want to be responsible for giving you a bunch of exercises and you thinking, oh my gosh, these are like 10 exercises, I'll save the day. Because at the end of the day, there's 1,000 different things you could do out there. You just need to find how it's going to work for you. So that is my philosophy on the weight room, what you should be doing. If you need help with your overall catching skill work and with anything that has to do with improving your work in the weight room, your work with your mobility, functionality, go ahead and click the link below because I'll show you how I work with players inside the Backstop Built complete catcher training program to help you be an overall better catcher in all things that you're doing, okay? Not just physical, not just weight room, but also situationally awareness, the best version of yourself back there as a leader, things like that. So then you can make varsity, or if you're already on varsity, you can now get scholarships, okay? This is what I help players do. Go ahead and book a free call with me below. I could go over your video, see where you're at, see if I can help you, what that all looks like. But without further ado, please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss another in-depth training of what I help catchers with every single day. God bless. Stay the course.